Hello, I'm your superhero critic, and I'll stay super as long as you stay awesome. And this is the third annual Gameurary. That's where I decide to dedicate a month looking at video games based on superheroes or comics. And this year I'll be looking at comics based on video games. That being said, growing up in the 90s, I played the Super Nintendo on an almost daily basis, and because of this, of course, I had a lot of the superhero games. But like I said, because it's the Power Rangers anniversary year, I've decided I'm going to take a look at every single game that system has regarding the Power Rangers. So that being said, without further ado, this is all of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the SNES. We begin our reviews with the game I played so many times growing up. It's one of the few I beat way too many times. Power Rangers itself is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that begins the best way possible with an 8-bit version of the theme. Okay, enough of this dance-off. When you start the game, you get a small cutscene of Rita in the night sky being evil with the Rangers looking onward, and the game then fades to the character select screen, and you are able to choose any of the 5 Rangers. Alas, those who are big fans of the original Green Ranger, he's not even in the game, despite the fact that this game was released during the time that the White Ranger had been introduced. So they could have put the Green Ranger in, they just chose not to. So they claim that the game takes place before Green was evil, even though the villains are separated throughout the season. Okay, I'm done ranting about Tommy not being available. Okay. Once you pick your ranger, there's a total of 5 stages that begin with the ranger unmorphed, and each ranger's moves are unique to them. Jason is shown with confident movements, Zack shows his hip-hop pedo, Trini is more martial artist, Kim's moves are more feminine, and Billy, well, Billy does... Okay, honestly, who punches like that? Like, who covers their head and punches like this? I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you. I don't think this is working. As you fight your way through the mass amount of putties, you will come face to face with the stage's boss, and your selected character will morph straight away without you doing anything, giving you access to your ranger's weapon of choice. The weapon helps deal more damage, and for Jason, Zack, and Trini, you can do an overhead chop that deals a lot of damage. With Kim, she will shoot her arrow, and Billy spins his power lance. When you finally make your way through each level, you then confront the stage's bosses between Bones, Gnarly Gnome, Eye Guy, Genie, and Dark Warrior. Most of these fights are extremely easy once you understand each of their patterns and use 2 different things to help. The first thing you can use the single bomb that you can collect like a move that does major damage and is also different for each ranger with fire, ice, lightning, rock, and pink.
Too much pink energy is dangerous.
The second thing to help beat the bosses is to use the up B slash attack using Jason, Trini, or Zack with some of the bosses. For example, against Bones final two stages go from a beat 'em up to a fighting game where you control the Megazord. You have multiple different moves based on how much energy is left in your gauge. Once you release your final blow, the game is beaten. I do want to talk about is the fact that Mutus, the lizard character from Island of Illusion, he goes down very easily. Cyclopsis is freaking hard. You just gotta keep hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. He has two phases and is one of the hardest things about this game. And honestly is the only hard thing about this game. But that being said, once you can finally beat Cyclopsis, you get to watch the Rangers drive home with Zack punching the air. After the long car ride, the gang hangs out at the juice bar, dancing and celebrating all the way till the credits roll. You then receive codes to play a fighting two-player game. And speaking of fighting games, it's time to tackle the next game. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Fighting Edition. Power Rangers Fighting Edition is a basic 2D fighting game that is the typical 2 out of 3 match system. The game has 3 game modes, including 2-player mode, time trial, and story mode. In story mode, you choose between the Thunder Megazord or the Mega Tigerzord, fighting your way from opponent to opponent, from Link Sinker to Goldar to Lord Zed himself. Now, one little hidden gem about this game is there is a hidden final boss that they don't promote in the game. That boss, of course, is the villain Ivan Ooze from the film. You can only use him in 2-player mode once you beat him or use the code. The gameplay itself is simplistic with basic punch and kick combos, while your special meter replenishes, giving you multitude of attacks like a normal fighter. With not much more left to cover regarding a fighting game because it's the typical fighting game, we're going to go to another game that's going to be reviewed kind of quickly because it's literally a clone of another game, but that's Power Rangers Zeo Racer. Our third game is Power Rangers Zeo Battle Racers, and this game is literally a clone of Mario Kart, complete with tracks, obstacle boosts, and instead of weapon arsenals and shells and bananas, you just have a missile. You get to choose between the 6 Rangers from Zeo, plus Mondo and a cog. And of course, you have 2-player battle mode. So literally, if you have played Mario Kart, you have played Power Rangers Racers. There's no difference between the two, and honestly, you're not missing anything. Mario Kart is such a better game. That being said, let's go to the last game, Power Rangers the movie. The movie edition of the games are the movie edition is much like the first game, except that the biggest difference is the character roster now replaces Zack, Trini, and Jason with Adam, Rocky, and Aisha. And the best Ranger finally gets to be playable. So yes, you could finally play as Tommy. I promised I wouldn't rant more about it, but the fact that the game was released after the Green Ranger saga and Green Ranger's still not playable outside of the Genesis Fighting Edition, it mind boggles. It bugs the hell out of me. Tommy should have been in the games. Put him in the game. Another big difference is that this game is actually 2 players, so you and a buddy can morph it up. And speaking of morphing, that is also changed, where you now have to collect small lightning bolts to fill a power gauge, and pressing X. However, the gauge also uses the unmorphed Ranger's special attack. I personally wish that they had some way of combining the Ninjetti powers into this game, like making it a second power-up level or something like that. It would have been cool to see, but that's just a personal thing because, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Gameplay for the movie edition is mostly the same as well. Beat your way through the repeated underlings while bouncing from foreground to background, and you get to the stage's boss, which in this case are villains from the Lord Zed season, such as Mira Maniac and Cannon Top, while the 7th and final stage being Ivan Ooze himself. So, whether or not you want to race with your friends, beat the crap out of them, or fight side by side to take down Zed and his goons, these four games are worth at least playing once if you're a Power Rangers fan. I do know that there's Genesis versions of more than half the games, but this video is specifically to take down the Super Nintendo versions. And that being said, join us next week as I take a look at a Patreon sponsored review on the comic book of World of Tanks. I'm your superhero critic, and I'll stay super as long as you stay awesome.